of the, what, Tarrant?
Tarrant Transit Alliance.
That wasn't too bad.
Yeah. And then Andre is our, he's our chairman, and he's the supplier diversity manager for TCC.
We don't care about Andre too much.
Don't say that.
I won't tell him you said that.
That's right.
He can hear us for sure. He's about to get on right now.
There he is.
Tell him I said it.
Tell him I said it.
Andre and I go way back. Chad, what's your title at the city?
You got to take a deep breath before you say it.
I
Regional
know.
Mobility and Innovation Officer.
Okay. I might need you to help me talk to your boss. Get your boss. I'm trying to get him on here next week or the following.
Okay, let me know and I'll see what I can do.
Okay. I sent him an email. He responded back, but I think he's really busy. I understand we all are. I just got time down. And do we have everybody on, Rachel? Because you were saying that someone else was going to be in the background.
That's right. Sal Espino should be in the background just in case anybody has any questions about Trinity Metro.
Denise, you got Salastino on?
No.
He may be popping on a little bit later.
Not in the participants.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We are officially on Facebook Live. Let me record this. All right. All right, everybody, it's 3 o'clock. So thank y'all for joining in on our weekly webinar, The State of Your Business. It's every Tuesday at 3 o'clock right here. It's on Zoom, but also on Facebook Live. We have a lot of great guests on our webinar today. But first off, we're going to do a couple of updates. Make sure that y'all are going out to vote today. If you didn't early vote, make sure to go out to the polls, have your voice heard, and vote. It's very, very important to be able to hear from our community and that our voices are heard. So make sure to do that and spread the word. Make sure that you tell at least one person today, hey, did you go vote today? Because it's really that important. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our business highlight portion of our webinar. So every week we allow a few business owners to come on and highlight their business, talk about their services, their location, what it is that they offer, so that we can make sure that our community is highlighting these great businesses that are out there, and that you know that these businesses are out there so that you can go out and support local businesses. We're going to start off with Brittany Boyd with the Ladder Alliance. She's going to tell you all about herself.
Thank you so much for having me on. Again, my name is Brittany Boyd. I'm the program director with the Ladder Alliance. And there we go. The Ladder Alliance is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2003 with a mission to provide women victims of domestic violence or low-income women with the tools to lead self-reliant, successful, and independent lives. We support and do our mission in the One Safe Place Family Justice Center located on the corner of Hemphill and Rosedale. And a part of this multi-agency network, we handle the workforce training, job skills training, and educational services, which are those tools I was talking about to help our students to become successful and move forward within their professional careers. We have 4 core programs that we work within, and I'm going to just touch on those briefly. And we meet our students wherever their needs are. So the first being our basic computer skills training program. We cover internet and email safe navigation practices, building up typing speeds, and then we get into the Microsoft Office suite. So basic document manipulation, whether it's created from scratch or a template that you're working with. We teach budgeting for your personal finances using Excel, and then also how to build a career in data entry and to do it without messing any of the spreadsheets or the figures up. And we go over PowerPoint to teach students how to give dynamic and impactful presentations so that if they do obtain a career where they need to go out and do outreach or speak, that they are well-versed and prepared. And then we round out this program with some job readiness training, so resume skills and interview practice to prepare the students to go out on those job interviews. Our second level of classes is geared towards those who are looking for administrative or executive level positions. It's called the Professional Office Skills Training Program, and it is 400 intense hours of training. We start with our Microsoft Office suite at the advanced level. So you'll learn every button on the ribbon, every function, every formula, how to build your own templates and presentations, anything you would possibly need to know in Microsoft Office suite. And then we also want to connect our students with community resources to ensure their stability as they graduate the program and move on to professional careers. So we go into financial literacy, networking, personal branding and image, and entrepreneurship. And we also have a business communication so that you are able to speak and write at a professional level and put yourself and your business, if you go on to entrepreneurship, out in the best light. And we also partner with Tarrant County College to come in and teach certified customer care skills on a weekly basis. So you're learning about women in leadership, emotional intelligence, diversity and inclusion, all the things that would be relevant for anyone in a professional setting. Our third level of classes is our Microsoft Office Specialist Training. And this training is focused in Word and Excel, and it's a globally recognized certification through the Microsoft company. You do have to go to TCU to take an entrance exam for this, and it's a requirement at the TCU Neely Business School. So we wanted to bring those skills to our students that need it the most and make sure they're ready for that performance-based skills analysis. And by having this certification on your resume, it shows your marketability and your productivity and what you're able to produce for an employer. Our fourth program is our professional development series. So what we've taken is just the mini lessons that we teach in our programs and brought them into 2-hour seminars to sit and teach people about how to negotiate their salary, how to interview, dress for success, and set those professional goals for career navigation. One thing we're doing now to help the community through COVID is we're doing one-on-one Zoom resume meetings. So we sit down with clients via Zoom and go over their work history and then help them build a polished resume that is applicant tracking system ready. So within that 30-minute session, you're able to leave with a document that's going to help you if you're applying for positions. We are actually proud to now announce that we are offering our services both in English and in Spanish. So we have professional development seminars in Spanish and our basic computer skills class as well. We do offer for agencies and businesses custom workshops in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. These individualized workshops will take into account what your employees need to know in order to do their job more efficiently and effectively. And we will customize resource manuals for future employers to be able to teach and train their employees to work at the highest rate possible. We do like to address any barriers that our students have. So cost of education, all of our core programs are $35 or less for the entire program. When COVID does cease and we see the end of this, we will be reinstating our childcare and our evening courses. We provide transportation assistance in the form of bus pass and gas cards to ensure our students can make it to class, and then also daily snacks to make sure that they are fed, their brains are ready and willing and open to learn. Just a quick, we have a success store, and this is for our students who come to class and they're on time. They receive points to come in and then pick out professional attire so that when you leave our classes, you have the wardrobe and the appearance outward so that you can go forth and be seen as the professional that you've grown yourself to be. We have shoes, purses, makeup, and jewelry available for the ladies that we serve. And we also have a fully functional salon. We have a resident stylist that comes in twice a week, and this is all free of charge to the students to come in pre-interview, pre-first day of work to get some trims, deep conditioning, whatever they need to really shine when they step into that new career. So there is a lot that Ladder Alliance has going on in our building. There are tons of ways to get involved, be it volunteering, donating clothing or hosting a clothing drive, or just even something as simple as following us on Facebook and sharing our services with clients would be amazing for us. So that was a lot, but please do share our information, and thank you so much again for this opportunity to share with you all.
Thank you so much, Brittany. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you all so much for doing this work. It's very necessary to have this kind of training opportunities for people that need that, especially with women, you know. So thank you so much. And we'll definitely be in contact with you all. So we're gonna go ahead and go to our next business. His name is Curly, Morris Curly. Give me 1 second. All right, Mr. Curly, go ahead.
Perfect, Denise. Thank you guys so much. Hey, I just want to say thank you to the Fort Worth. It's an honor to be a member. I appreciate you guys are very professional. You do an excellent job. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Again, my name is Morris Curley Jr. I go by Mo. I'm the president of the Curley Insurance Agency. We're a nationwide agency. We're actually the largest nationwide insurance agency in Fort Worth, our African-American owned insurance agency in Fort Worth. Our agency has been in Fort Worth for 7 years now. We're here to provide excellent, exceptional service to our clients. We provide auto, home, life, and commercial insurance. My background is in finance. I was, prior to being a nationwide insurance agent, pardon me, I was the fixed income specialist in Silicon Valley for TD Ameritrade. I was a senior fixed income specialist. So I bring a wealth of knowledge regarding financial services and insurance information. I wanted to bring this information to my community. So I came back to the DFW area, started this agency, and definitely wanted to just help my community, help this community, help the city, basically with their insurance needs. I just have to say something about life insurance. Life insurance is something that everyone should have. I've seen too many horror stories about people, something happening in an untimely manner, and the family just had to have a really hard time. They have borrowed, et cetera, et cetera. So if you get it through me, which we would appreciate, or if you get it through anybody, any other insurance company, but everyone should definitely get life insurance. You don't want to place that additional burden on your family during their time of grief. Our mission is to provide exceptional service for our clients and to be a blessing to each community that we serve. We're actually opening up another one in Dallas in about 2 months. So we want to be a blessing in each community that we serve. The Fort Worth address is actually at 3301 Alta Mesa Boulevard. We're in Southwest Fort Worth. We're over there by the corner of Alta Mesa and McCart. Our telephone number is area code 817-370-9838, option 0. That brings you to the agency. Again, 817-370-9838, option 0. And our website is actually Curly, that's spelled CURLEEINS.com. Again, that's Curly, CURLEEINS.com. We treat all of our members like family. We have members that will call us up due to an emergency at 4 in the morning. And we welcome that. We're here for you if you need anything. And so I don't want to monopolize this, but again, I want to say thank you guys for the opportunity. And if we can do anything, we're here for you.
Thank you so much, Curly.
Absolutely.
People don't understand how important life insurance is. I feel like they don't want to think about death or anything like that, or they're planning it. So it's very important to have that. Thank you for your services. And so we're going to continue on.
Denise,
Yes.
can I say something to Mo?
Yeah,
sure.
hey, Def. What's up, Frat?
Mo,
What's up, Frat?
how you doing?
I'm
Right.
doing well. Thank you. I'm a member of Alpha 5, Alpha 2, A5, but
Good.
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, a lot of grief in the house.
Just, Mo connected with us at one of our Buy Back networking forums. That's where I met him at well, it's the sausage shop now. The sausage shop moved into that spot. So I'm glad we're connected. We're glad you joined, and I'm happy
Thank
to
you,
see
sir.
you on the spotlight.
Thank you, Dad. It's good to see you.
All right.
It's always great to connect Greeks with Greeks. I mean, that's what it's all about networking, community service, and all that. So thank you all so much. So one more thing before I hand it off to Daryl is I want to mention that we are having this weekend, we're having our women's women's book discussion on the 18th. We're going to be discussing the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's definitely a great book that we're going to be discussing. If you are interested, here's the event on our Facebook. All you have to do is just register for it. It's free of charge. It is this Saturday at 10 a.m. So make sure to participate in that. And yes, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my coworker. His name is Daryl Brewer, and we will take it off from there. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I blurted out so y'all, you know it was me. So I want to welcome you to the economic development portion of our show, and I appreciate you so much for joining in. First, I want to let you know some news. I'm gonna give you the bad news first. So for those folks who are out there who are getting unemployment, and you're getting unemployment from the federal government and the state government, well, the federal unemployment is going to stop July 25th. So that if you're getting federal pandemic unemployment benefits, it will end July 25th. That's that $600 a week you're getting right now. That's going to be gone. I hate to tell you that. It's supposed to go through the end of the month, but because of the dates or something other, is actually ending July 25th. So if you're still on state unemployment, you should still be able to receive that if you haven't run out of that portion. And if you one of those unfortunate folks who are 1099 employee or 1099 self-employed, that means, as far as I can tell, July 25th, you will not be receiving a check after that. So I'm sorry to tell you that, but at least I'm letting you know ahead of time. If you haven't received that from the state, from TWC. So the second thing I want to let you know is that for those of you who filled out the grant information, if you were looking from the city of Fort Worth, there was set aside $10 million to give away in the form of grants. That ended June 15th. I want to just update you on that. Some 1,400 businesses applied, and we have already started sending out that money. Many people have already been notified through email. Some people have already received their checks. It was based on the number of employees that you had. So just want to let you know that that is going down, that is happening, and all of those should be dispersed by the end of July. There were some challenges with that. Some people wanted it to be based upon whether or not you had a house and that you were paying taxes on your home inside of Fort Worth. But we fought against that. We didn't think that was a good idea. And some people wanted it to be loans. But the chamber, felt like a grant would be a better thing to get to people so that the economy can kind of keep moving. So that's the situation on that. Now we're up to our presentations. Part of our presentation today, and that is we're going to have Mobility Matters to the African American Community. And we have several people here, and Denisha can keep it on all of us. We have Rachel Albright. We're going to have Chad Edwards. I'm going to let them introduce themselves when they get to it. We have Andre on as well.
I'm on.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to hand it over to Rachel and let her introduce everyone. And then I'm just going to hand the floor over to you guys. Rachel, are you there?
Yeah, I sure am. Hey guys, how are you doing? Happy to have you here. I actually would like for Chad to give a brief introduction first of the Transit Moves Fort Worth plan. So Chad Edwards is the Chief Mobility and Innovation Officer for the City of Fort Worth. Did I get it right?
No, not quite. You got all the right words, just a different order.
Oh, that's it's a mouthful. And then we will follow up afterwards to talk about, to give more context to why mobility matters to the African American community. And it'll be me, Rachel Albright, the president of Tarrant Transit Alliance, and Andre McEwing, our board president. So I'm going to pass it over to Chad.
All right. So I am sharing my screen, and hopefully you can see that. Thanks a lot. My name is Chad Edwards. I am the Regional Mobility and Innovation Officer with the City of Fort Worth. I've been with the city and Transportation and Public Works for over a year and a half now. And I had, previous background was with Dallas Area Rapid Transit for a few years. And then I was with the North Central Texas Council of Governments for about 15 years. So I've been in transportation in one way, shape, or form within the region for, hard to say, over 20 years now. So a lot of stuff going on. Thank you so much for having me today to talk to the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce and here on Facebook Live and in the Zoom meeting. So I'm very much appreciative of having the opportunity to talk to you about this. I'm going to go through my slides quickly, and we'll get some questions here later on. So the agenda for today's meeting is to cover 5 different topics: the plan approach, a high-level review of the plan, plan costs, potential funding options, and then next steps as we see them today. To start, I'd like to quickly review the approach that we took for the transit plan. The plan started in 2018. I picked it up in January of 2019 when I started with the city of Fort Worth and worked through the public outreach and plan development during that next year, all of 2019. We conducted a market analysis to determine needs and interest in the transit community. With the help of Trinity Metro, we critically reviewed the transit system to show where improvements could be made as well. We reviewed population and employment demographics for now and 25 years into the future to help us determine the types and levels of investment that could be made in the city. We conducted several rounds of public meetings throughout the city to gather input, and there were also 2 online surveys to help with the public input as well. The charts that you see, the charts and map that you see on the screen are examples pulled from one of our documents that was used to help in the development of the transit plan itself. The charts show the demographic breakdowns within the city of Fort Worth, and the map shows what we call transit propensity, showing the potential for transit users within the city of Fort Worth. And in this map, it's actually all of Tarrant County. And you can see the darker greens there show the higher propensity for use of transit, and those are mainly focused in the east and southeast part of the city of Fort Worth. And as a reminder, all of these documents can be found at our transitmovesfortworth.com website as well. So there were 6 major initiatives for the transit plan, the Transit Moves Fort Worth plan. The first one you can see here, to develop a high capacity transit services. Number 2 was improve existing services. Number 3, expand transit to new areas. Number 4, improve access to transit. Number 5, improve facilities and amenities. And then number 6 was make service easier to use. I'll go through each of the initiatives, each with their own slides, starting here with the development of a high-speed capacity network. And you'll see 3 types of high capacity modes on the slide, with BRT or bus rapid transit as the highest. BRT is very similar to light rail with specialized vehicles, limited number of stations, and a dedicated right-of-way. There are several corridors identified to have BRT in the future. One of those, and the first that the city of Fort Worth and Trinity Metro are working on, is the East Lancaster corridor between downtown Fort Worth and East Loop 820. This is about a 7-mile corridor, which would be the first in North Texas, like I mentioned. The other 2 modes shown on the screen are also included in the plan, or expected to be used public infrastructure like the managed lanes you see on I-35W. Transit Moves number 2 is to improve existing services. To make the system easier to use and to encourage more people to use the system, it needs to be more frequent and in service for longer hours during the day. Currently, there are only 7 routes that provide frequent service of 15 minutes or better. This plan outlines service every 10 to 15 minutes for most of the day on the BRT lines, rapid bus routes, and 3 more local routes. Additionally, more frequent service for longer hours would be provided every 20 to 30 minutes all day on most other bus routes. On commuter rail route service would be 30 minutes, 7 days a week. Express bus service would get an upgrade on new routes and new coach type vehicles as well. As the network is reviewed, so will the bus stops themselves. The review of the bus stop usage will influence stop locations that will stay and those stop locations that get upgraded with new amenities like benches and shelters. Lastly, the application of the transit signal priority and interaction between transit vehicles and transit signals will help reduce passenger travel times and increase travel speeds to get to your destination faster. Next is our third initiative to expand transit to new areas. A variety of options are utilized here through new bus routes, extension of TexRail, new zip zone locations, as seen in the map, and a continual discussion about expansion of Trinity Metro's service area to include more cities. Currently, partnerships between Trinity Metro and the cities of Crowley and Forest Hill have expanded the service into new areas. The North Central Texas Council of Governments is also working on a Tarrant County-wide transit plan that both the city of Fort Worth and Trinity Metro are participating in to help encourage new city participants in providing transit service to their residents. Initiative number 4 is to improve access to transit through installation of sidewalks, bike lanes, park and ride locations, and transit-oriented development, or TOD. A renewed focus on TOD around rail stations and future BRT stations is an opportunity to increase housing and work location options for a wide variety of persons. The city of Fort Worth also completed the active transportation plan in early 2019, which outlines gaps in sidewalks and bicycle facilities within the city. The map on the slide is taken from our active transportation plan that shows locations of sidewalk gaps within a quarter mile of transit stops. The ATP was used in the Transit Moves Fort Worth plan to focus resources and locations for future projects. And for more information on the ATP, you can go to fortworthtexas.gov/ATP to read the entire document there. Initiative number 5 identifies a need to improve facilities and amenities of the transit system. Updates to the regional transfer centers to make them mobility hubs, bus stop improvements like the addition of shelters, and when possible, a review to the street itself to make it a complete street for the safety and enjoyment of all users. And lastly, our last initiative is to make the system easier to use. Currently, Trinity Metro is conducting a bus route reorganization to streamline the system and straighten routes where possible. You should see some invitations for public involvement in the route reorganization from Trinity Metro in the next month or two. This is one example of better information to simplify the system to encourage more users. Trinity Metro is also actively working on what they call Mobility as a Service. Mobility as a Service, or MOS, is an application, an app-based tool to help riders plan and pay for their trip. Trinity Metro partnered with DART to use their GoPass app technology. This app, tailored to Fort Worth, will allow the users to plan and pay for trips seamlessly. So for example, if you want to take a bike ride to the train station, then take the train to a station in a zip zone area, and then use that zip zone service to get to your final destination, you would typically have 3 different apps and payments you'd have to work through. With the GoPass app, all of this is done through one app to make a seamless travel experience. And the app is expected to be available later this year. Now I'll move on to costs. We developed 2 sets of costs, one for BRT recommendations and the other for light rail recommendations. The chart on the screen shows the comparison of the two plans. The largest expense in each plan is for the capital investment of the high capacity transit element. You can see that an estimated $2.3 billion over the next 25 years would be spent on BRT, and an estimated $5.6 billion would be spent on light rail. That's a $3.3 billion difference over 25 years between those modes. Total plan costs are estimated at $2.8 billion for a BRT plan and $6.1 billion for the light rail plan. Remember that although the plan may highlight a BRT system, we are keeping open the opportunity for light rail in the future. We don't want to limit ourselves to any future potential development opportunities. We know that current federal transportation legislation that transit projects can compete for up to 50% Federal Transit Administration capital investment grant funds. Therefore, in this chart, we assume that all our BRT projects will qualify for the 50% federal funds, and the overall local costs would go down about 50%. So this changes the $2.3 billion that you see on the high capacity transit line there, and the BRT investment would go down to roughly $1.2 billion with the help of the Federal Transit Administration. And this calculation would also be the same thing for LRT projects as well. You can see that written on the slide as well. So now that we have a plan, it needs to be funded. So funding transit, as you know, is a challenge with so many competing needs. Currently, Trinity Metro is funded by a half-cent sales tax, totaling around $80 million per year. In addition to the sales taxes that they get, there's also federal formula funds and contributions from other communities that help support the operations of the transit system. As a note, Trinity Metro is not funded at the same level as our neighbors to the east. For comparison, DART is funded with a 1 cent sales tax in 13 member cities, where Trinity Metro is funded with, there's 2 members, half-cent sales tax. The 2 members are Fort Worth and Blue Mound. There is a third city, city of Grapevine, who contributes some funds only for the Textrail service. And the cities of Crowley and Forest Hill also pay for their specific services as well. Other options for funding sources are included on this slide. However, it's understood that several of these sources would not get much traction with elected officials or the public. Additionally, some of these sources have taken a big hit here recently with the travel restrictions, cancellation of big events, and the stay-at-home orders that we've had. So wrapping up, our next steps include trying to develop a funding plan. This might have been easier in January or February of this year, but you know, during this time of Corona, funding sources are uncertain at best. The city is reviewing its future budget and what impacts are anticipated with the reduction of revenue due to the past several months. We are working with Trinity Metro to understand their $10 million budget request and how it fits within the city's future budget. With transit ridership down between 60 and 70%, depending on the mode, it's difficult to determine the amount and timing of additional city investment in transit. I've heard from industry experts that ridership recovery to pre-COVID numbers will take some time. We may need between 9 and 12 months to better understand the financial and ridership impacts of these last few months. There are investments that can be made that are not solely for the benefit of transit users, however. Sidewalk installation helps persons with disabilities move around the city and kids get to school. Traffic signal priority not only helps buses move through the intersections quicker, but also helps other vehicles move through the intersection with the extended green light time. And implementation of complete streets helps with utilizing current right-of-way for all users, pedestrians, bicyclists, autos, trucks, buses. So I want to thank you for letting me talk to you today about the transit plan. You can reach me at chadedwards@fortworthtexas.gov, And you can also read documents that we have for the plan at transitmovesfortworth.com. Thank you.
All right, Chad, thank you for your presentation. Denise, I'm gonna ask you, are there any questions from the audience?
Not that I see, no.
Okay, well, I have some for later on. So let's go on to the next presentation.
Thanks so much, Chad, for sharing that. So what we want to do is the Transit Moves Fort Worth plan is a really important plan that is looking at the next 25 years for transit in Fort Worth. And what we at TTA want to do is talk about why transportation is important right now and what you can do to support it. So I am going to share my screen real quick. Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, and then I'm actually going to, first, I'll introduce myself. Again, I'm Rachel Albright. I'm the president of the Tarrant Transit Alliance, and with me today is Andre McEwing, who is the chair of TTA, as well as the supplier diversity manager of TCCD. And I'm going to pass it on to Andre.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. And let me personal thank you to the Fort Metropolitan Black Chamber, Denise, Daryl, to the CEO, Dee Jennings, Ms. Barbara Bolton. You know, I have a relationship with this chamber and really appreciate you stepping out and moving into some areas that may not always be the most attractive, but are very critical to the success of the city and really the mobility of this city throughout. And so we just want to take an opportunity this afternoon to just let you know that we look forward to your listening audience, viewing audience and listening audience to become a member on the front end, let me just say, of TTA, Transit Tarrant Alliance. The advocacy of transit in this city is critical to move forward various agendas, specifically to the point that Chad made about funding. And so with that said, let me start. We are Transit, the Tarrant Transit Alliance, a coalition of businesses and individuals who are educating and advocating for improved transit services funded in Tarrant County. You've met our illustrious President CEO, Ms. Rachel Albright, and myself, Andre McEwing. And just so you know, prior to being the chair of this organization, I was a board member of formerly the Fort Worth Metropolitan Fort Worth Tarrant Transit Alliance, which is now Trinity Metro. And so I'm very intimate in terms of how things operate. Funding, was on that board for about 4.5 years. And so just want to bring light to the fact that we need to be engaged and participate and advocate for transit for the entire city and for those individuals that use the system. TTA is a coalition of individuals and businesses who are working to educate, empower, and mobilize policy around transit that serves the entire region, Tarrant County. We know that 70% of the Trinity Metro operating budget, 70% is covered by the half-cent sales tax that Chad mentioned. Although we're the 3rd largest county in Texas and the 15th largest in the US, our transit system does not reflect our population size, does not reflect that. We were founded and funded by a partnership between the Regional Council of Greater Fort Worth, the Real Estate Council of Greater Fort Worth, the Trinity Metro, Tarrant County College, and Blue Zone. So as you can tell, there's a collaboration here, a strategic collaboration to move the agenda of transit in Tarrant County, specifically Fort Worth. We have over 150 members, and we welcome all of you on the viewing audience to become a member and to engage in the Transit Moves process and support the agenda for transit throughout Tarrant County. Transit Moves is about social equity. We believe now is the time to support public transportation in our region. It's critical. Some of you participated about last month, the Juneteenth, the walk. We had an equity bus, as you can see here on the screen. It's about equity. It's about mobility, accessibility, moving all citizens throughout Fort Worth to jobs and places of needs that they may have. The Race and Cultural Task Force brought their recommendations to the council in 2018, and transportation was one of those priorities, one of the areas they looked at. The safety of our communities are important. The safeties of our community are important. You can see here nearly 38,000 people were killed in traffic crashes in the US, and specifically our minority areas have had a disproportionate share of fatalities non-fatal pedestrian and bike crashes in Fort Worth. And so we're here to seek the opportunity to create the opportunity to reduce that impact. Transit is 10 times safer than traveling in a car in metro areas and can cut the traffic fatality rates 10 to 40% by prioritizing transit, bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and generally supporting strategies that reduce driving. Bottom line is safe to use transit. We are in a pandemic, obviously, and we're already moving into economic recovery mode, but our city has been changing rapidly for a while now. I like to paint a picture as to why it is vital and important that we begin investing in transit today. The statistics here talk about transit moves. We can elevate communities. Consider the role buses play. Equity equals access to opportunity, and transit provides that access. So at the end of the day, transit is important, not just to individuals, but to the city and the impact it can play to making a difference. The population is growing in the city. The city of Fort Worth is expected to grow to 1.4 million by 2045. Tarrant County's population will grow to 3.26 million, a 62% growth. Already congestion is increasing in DFW. If you drive 35, 820, 287, you know that. We spend almost 3 full days in traffic right now, which has doubled since 1990, increasing auto emissions by 133% and wasting gallons of gas. This picture of congestion from COG here, as you see where the congestion is, and you saw Chad's map showing where the transit riders are, and it's almost an overlay there in terms of Tarrant County, but you see where the congestions are located. Not to mention the cost of transit on everyday persons. When we think of New York City, we think of an expensive, populated, crowded metropolis. If you take into account the cost of housing and transit combined, it actually costs less to live in New York City than Fort Worth, Texas. And this is just the average. Transportation is hard on Fort Worth's wallets, but it's hard on the environment as well. Air pollution leads to disease. Those with preconditions, right now, as we know, preconditions are most likely to have negative effects from COVID. We must be thoughtful about our air quality and commit and prioritize transit. Another New York City comparison. This is New York's time graph that shows just how much more CO2 drivers in our metroplex contribute than drivers in the city. This has to do with urban density and general transit. You have more options, so you don't have to take your car for every trip. We have been talking a lot about essential workers. While we show a healthcare worker here, I also want to take a moment to thank the transit operators who have continued to provide essential service to these essential workers who need to get to work, risking their lives so we can continue. In fact, in the US, 2.8 million essential workers ride transit to their job and rely on transit operators to do so. And I'm sure those of you on the viewing know of some people that use transit who are essential operators. But our current system is significantly lacking. We have winding, infrequent routes. It doesn't have to be that way. It's a reflection of our community's current investment in transit. In fact, Trinity Metro receives the least local funding among Texas's major transit systems, as you see here. Compare that to DART in Dallas, or Austin, or Houston, or San Antonio. It's a snowball effect. Limited funding leads to limited service, to a lack of connectivity. As you can see here, funding, service, lack of connectivity that really hampers our ability to service our communities effectively. This is the most important part of the conversation today. Transit moves the economy. We must support increased investment in transit now because of its opportunity to stimulate our economy. During the New Deal and the last recession, America focused on infrastructure projects to boost our economy, and the federal government is preparing to do the same at this time around. A study done by Smart Growth America found that $1 spent on public transit produces 70% more job hours than a $1 spent on highway projects. Our community needs to be prepared with projects ready to receive federal money, and public transit projects will produce more jobs. Here are some of the economic returns we can expect to receive from investing in transit in Fort Worth. We get 4 times economic return for public transportation investment, according to the Association of Public Transit, the American Public Transit Association. Sales increase along transit routes, jobs are created. This was a study done in 2015. Remember how much DART was invested in their transit system. This is the economic impact, returns to the greater Dallas community. Fort Worth is missing out on this opportunity. Let me just stop here. As you can see, the impact: jobs, increased wages, stimulus, property values, community investment, as well as securing our future. These are the economic impacts of good funding in transit. This was a study done in 2000, luckily, even with COVID and Trinity Metro's limited budget, there are some exciting improvements coming down the pipe, as you can see. You see zip zones, you see TexRail, you see VIA, which is the last mile connectivity to our main transit system. Similar to Uber and Lyft, except you might share the vehicle for 1 or 2 people. This is zip zones. This is the connectivity that Chad was talking about, that's making investments right now. We now have zip zones in Crowley, Mercantile Center, and near South Side, and more to come in near South Side coming in July 19th, and more to come. Speaking of the medical district, you can connect to those zip zones in the future through TexRail. The line will go right behind Baylor, Scott, and White. The extension will create jobs. So that's what you can look forward to in terms of the next extension of TexRail going south from downtown. At last but not least, Trinity Metro and the city of Fort Worth are putting plans for a bus rapid transit, which Chad made reference to before, down Lancaster. And I'm gonna just put this in all the way to Arlington. This will bring huge improvements and economic potential along the Lancaster route and help connect the east side of Fort Worth with better, more frequent, more reliable transit. It will create jobs, improve the Lancaster corridor, increase business along the Lancaster corridor. We need to be supporting this project. We need your support if you're an audience. BRT is like a train on tires, similar infrastructure, just less investment. So let me just say this, and Rachel will close us out. My ask to the viewing audience, with the support and advocacy from the Black Chamber, is that you heard Chad made reference to online surveys, getting the input from the community, participation. We need participation from the community, Southeast, specifically Fort Worth, to participate and make sure your voice is being heard. And if it's not heard, you have TTA, you can email myself or Rachel to let us hear from you of your thoughts and suggestions of what needs to be done about transit from bus stops to the last stop. And so I encourage you to take on that charge and challenge to make the transit system in Fort Worth your system. So Rachel, take it from there.
Thanks, Andre. So what can you do right now to support public transit? You can support transit-oriented development. You can use the system, join advocacy groups like TTA, or most importantly, contact your representatives now and let them know that transit is important to you. They make investments based off of the community and what they think is important. If they don't know that this is important to you, to your neighbors, to your parents, to your customers, they're not going to invest in it. We need your help to reach out to council now. So in fact, Trinity Metro just proposed an almost $10 million budget for the city of Fort Worth for financial year 21. We have it listed out here, and on our website, you can actually go deeper into each of these line items. We want you to let council know that this is important to you. If any of these zip zones, if the Amazon route, if the Southeast zip zone, the express service to the East Transfer Center, if that affects you and your community, you need to let council know that that's important to you. We have sample letters on our website as well if you need help getting started. Okay, so TTA is continuing to talk about why transit is important to our community, and we'd love to talk to your neighborhood association, church, or civic group. We also want to listen to you and your community. If there's somebody, if you feel like you're not being heard, we want to make sure that we are talking about the right things. And so please invite us to come and talk. And it also behooves me to say that we would love for you to be a part of our organization. If you support public transportation in your area, please consider joining. You can join for as low as $10 a day or $20 a year if you're a student. We also have sponsorship opportunities. And finally, please connect with us. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. You can go to our website and sign up for our newsletters. That's where you can get community calls to action. And my phone number and email address are below if you have any questions.
Well, awesome. That's a lot to swallow. Appreciate all of you for coming on. We have about 12 minutes left in our section. So I just want someone to speak to, if we're talking about, because this is what does mobility mean to the Black community, African American community. So that's generally going to be in Southeast Fort Worth, Stop 6, Eastwood, historic South Side, Southwest Fort Worth. Can someone, maybe it's you, Chad, talk about what those routes might look like and how this is going to help those folks specifically in those areas to go to places like Alliance, Carter Park, up and down 35 to where they could maybe reach jobs?
Sure. I'm looking for a map that I could show very quickly. Let's see if this will work. I can use this one. It'll show the frequent network. And I'll just zoom in a little bit here. And so this is our.
That's probably a good idea if you could just zoom in that whole map over there to the right. Well, and then talk about it.
Yeah, let me do this real quick. Here we go. There. Is that better? So this is our frequent transit network. So the red lines are either the BRT or the future light rail opportunities. Both Andre and I talked about the East Lancaster BRT route. That's on here. You can see how there's rapid bus and then there's express bus here as well. And what we tried to do is streamline and straighten up a lot of these routes so that they interconnect. And you can see really here on the southeast side of Fort Worth how these buses interconnect. One of the recommendations or budget requests from Trinity Metro is also a zip zone, to start a zip zone up in southeast Fort Worth as well, to help provide a larger coverage area with the same amount of funding. And so opportunities between Trinity Metro and the city of Fort Worth as we partner on all of these activities for the plan, and then how we can help support ultimately with the funding and the budget request. But you can see here how all these routes interact, opportunities in some of these locations for what you see here in the red boxes are these regional mobility hubs as well, which are upgraded transfer facilities. And what we really try to do is provide that connectivity, the quickness of the routes, and really trying to make the transit system move and perform better than it has in the past.
I'll just add in there, I'm sorry. I'll just add in there that frequency is incredibly important because it's the matter of how long it takes to get to work if you are an hour early, or if you miss your bus 30 minutes late. And it's a matter of your mother being able to get to the hospital in time to go to a doctor's appointment. So increasing frequency through the Transit Moves Fort Worth plan is incredibly important, because right now most of our system is at least a 30-minute frequency. It takes at least 30 minutes for you to get on to the next bus. So if you miss it, you're waiting 30 minutes.
And how soon can we look at, because I feel like we've been talking about this for about a year. So how soon can we look at anything changing and actually happening on the ground, or I could see with my eyes or something?
Well, you see, there's bits and pieces that are working on that. Right now, Trinity Metro is working on the route reorganization itself. Unfortunately, COVID occurred in the March timeframe, where Trinity Metro was trying to start their public involvement of that route reorganization at that time. and they've had to postpone that out several months. And so you should see some more information about public involvement and an interaction on the route reorganization itself. You know, we've already started put in into practice some early examples of the transit plan, which is one, the route reorganization, two is a near south side zip zone, which was something that we wanted to do. We're working on the extension of TRE, TexRail, extension of TexRail. And then Trinity Metro and the city is working on the East Lancaster BRT project as well. So there's lots of different elements that are occurring. Some are a little bit more overt and out there, and some of them are a little bit more behind the scenes as we're starting to really kind of work through who does what and what kind of design should it be, and who actually is going to be the ultimate responsible party for those big projects as well.
Hey, Daryl, and let me just make a comment. I think some of the things we can do now, I think to your point, as you've heard me say, and the folks on the call, on the Zoom call have heard me say, the bus experience starts at the bus stop. And I think one of the things that even pre-COVID, post, and coming out of COVID, that we need to make our bus stops COVID safe and friendly. And I think that's something that can happen right now, because as I drive through Southeast Fort Worth and was over there yesterday, we've got to ensure that there's covering. It's triple degree weather out there. People have to use the bus. And so we're encouraging from an advocacy standpoint now, not waiting, that we make our bus stop COVID friendly and safe, because people are still riding the bus. They're having to wait by a pole, if in some cases, an old 1970 bench that was there when we were in elementary school. So I think the opportunity right now is to ensure our bus stops where people are waiting, if they're not downtown, if they're not on Oakland and Lancaster, the Transit Plaza, or the corner of Berry and Riverside, we've got to ensure safe, COVID safe, and ADA and friendly with our bus stops. I think we can do. They're doing that now, and they're continuing to do that. I think that's important as we go forward. Just want to make that comment.
Well, I think one of the challenges has to be, if you don't know what the bus routes are going to be, if that's still in flux, then it's hard to invest in bus stops if we don't even know if that's going to be a bus stop, 6 months or a year from now.
Well, there's some that we do know. There,
Right,
I mean, in terms of Chad's referencing those that we're changing, but there are those that we do know right now. Chad, what would you say? Maybe 50%? We're not changing 100% of the routes, are we?
No, not at all. There's a lot of the frequent, the high ridership routes, they're more than likely not going to change. And even a lot of the routes are going to be tweaked as opposed to fully change different corridors. So I would think, 50% may be a good starting point on how many routes may not get a full redesign. But all the bus stops are going to get reviewed and looked at, and we know that it starts with the bus stop, and the better the facility for the bus stop, the more encouraging it is for people to ride the bus. And so shelters, lighting, concrete pads or sidewalks, and accessibility to those bus stops are all very important. And so that's partly why I mentioned the active transportation plan as well, because we know that there's a need out there for that connectivity, not only for just people who can walk around, but also for persons with disabilities as well, and that ADA accessibility. So there's a lot of things going on here that are all working together. I hesitate to say the perfect storm, but it's kind of getting there with all of these needs kind of rising to the top as far as transit and pedestrian, ADA, and just trying to get everybody working and moving in the same direction.
And just to tie it back into your original question, Daryl, about how this affects the African American and Black American community, who are mostly along the Lancaster route, let's say, or in Southeast Fort Worth, or wherever they may be. If you have a business or if you live in those areas, as we're making improvements to public transportation, that improves your access and that improves the number of people going to your business. That's improving the sidewalk, that's improving the walkability. It's making your neighborhood a better place to do business and a better place to live, and it makes it easier to access jobs either downtown or up in Alliance or wherever it may be that you're working. So all of these improvements are sort of coming together. It's a really important time right now for transportation and support of it.
Yeah, I see why Rachel's the president, right? See how well she speaks and everything. But I tell you, and it could be just me, it just seems like things are moving awfully slow. Although I remember talking to Bob Bursar, and he was talking like, we can get this done pretty quickly. I said, well, how fast is that? He told me 5 years. I was like, 5 years? I thought that was funny. Because 5 years seemed like a long time to me.
Yeah.
In
But
transportation
Daryl,
projects,
let me say
5
this.
years is a short term.
Yeah. But let me say this, Daryl, and so driving back to Southeast, the corner right now, the reason the investment dollars are being made right now, the corner of Riverside and Berry, where there's a transit plaza. There is a new 3 to 4 story, as you know, senior housing facility that just is being built right now. So there's a $10 to $15 million investment as a result. And then talking to the developer as a result of the fact that there was a transit plaza at that corner. So don't get it, we may have to drag Trinity Metro along, but the investment, to the point we made on the presentation, developers, because of the cost of money that's available out there right now, there will be developments in the urban area that will be made because there's a need right now given demographic changes. And so it's gonna drive the demand to create better transit facilities and routes.
Awesome. Denise, I know we're right at 4 o'clock. Do we have any questions from the audience?
We do. We have 3. So from Facebook Live, we have Caleb Roberts. He's asking, why was Lancaster chosen and not Rosedale with all the investment and street improvements already happening?
So Lancaster was kind of a perfect storm, if I can use that term again. One is it's a very wide corridor that we would not have to purchase extra right of way to do this type of investment. TxDOT had some dollars that were identified for this corridor for improvement, and the city had some dollars that were already pre-identified for this corridor as well. And so as we started looking at the opportunities, we had noticed that it started to align pretty well with the plan that we were putting together with Lancaster, as it is, it's State Highway 180, former State Highway 180. It connects downtown all the way to the East Loop 820. And as Andre said, it goes all the way into downtown Arlington. And so there's a lot of what we like to say opportunity for this particular corridor to connect further on to the east and have some involvement with the city of Arlington at a later date. So it kind of aligned pretty well with Lancaster corridor as the BRT project.
Well, Chad, I hate to tell you, but Rosedale is kind of like a highway too, right?
It is. It is.
So when you say that, and it goes all the way into Arlington too, right? All the way to Dallas, right?
So does 180, right? Yeah.
So some people look at that and say, wait a minute, that still didn't answer my question, because Rosedale does the same thing as Lancaster. Rosedale runs more to the heart of the Black community than I'm just saying what people think.
Yeah. So let me help Chad out, Daryl. Let me say this: having been on the board, that decision was made based on a couple of things. Ridership on Lancaster was higher than Rosedale. Okay. So and also Lancaster's investment of that transit plaza that sits at the corner of Oakland and Oakland and Lancaster. That was another reason, right? Okay. So there were investments made I'm gonna call them pre-BRT investments that were made, that we made that decision about 6 years ago.
Okay. All right, Denise, what else we got?
Sorry, I was muted. All right, so we have Tiffany McCrae is asking, are there security cameras at the bus stations and transfer stations?
Ooh.
So I guess,
good
Will,
question.
Chad, you go. You want to take that, Chad?
Well,
You're closer
that's
to
not an easy.
Metro than I am.
Well, everybody get
I'll
quiet.
start, I guess.
So,
So
yeah,
there's cameras at Central Station.
right,
There's cameras at the new TexRail stations.
right.
And then part of the budget request is to put cameras and lighting at the East Transfer Center as well. And so as far as that, I don't know if there's any additional lighting or cameras at any other facilities.
There's at least lighting at the two transit plazas, the one
Okay.
on Berry and Riverside, as well as Oakland and Lancaster. There is lighting. There is, we don't have a police force per se, but we do have Fort Worth Police on contract, as well as some security that, and I say we, Trinity Metro. So you have that at those two locations.
Right.
So am I understand you were saying that the transfer center on Lancaster and the one on Berry and Riverside has cameras? I heard the police.
No, I said has lighting, Daryl. I didn't say cameras.
So maybe so anybody out there, y'all listening, maybe we can get somebody to donate some money to put some cameras on the east side for work. Because I heard downtown and I heard the near south side. So maybe we get that done. So Denise, we got any other questions?
One last question was from an anonymous person. So what are the thoughts about having Bus in Tune with Visit Fort Worth for being able to get riders dispersed before and after events?
Okay.
So I guess I'll start with that one as well. I don't think it's impossible to have that opportunity. I think what happens is there's a thing called a charter rule with the Federal Transit Administration that the federally funded, state-funded type of buses shouldn't and can't compete with the private sector. Because we can do it, Trinity Metro can do it cheaper than what the private sector can do it for, and then they would be undercutting that private sector. So if there's no other option, no other private option available for those services, then Trinity Metro can be utilized. But there's a rule, it's called a charter rule, charter bus rule, that doesn't necessarily allow Trinity Metro to compete for services like that.
So Chad, I think what people might think about is, well, I can ride TexRail all the way to watch the Mavericks play.
Right.
I have some input on that, Daryl. So back in February, there was a concert at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, and I, with my sister, we took the train from here all the way over there. We got stranded because the concert started pretty late, like they went on later. And so the schedule that I had looked previously, it didn't coincide with the event. So I always wondered if the transit would like connect with the big events coming, because I mean, American Airlines Stadium was absolutely booked out, and there was about, I want to say about 50 to 70 people stranded in Dallas at like midnight trying to get a ride back to Fort Worth downtown. The Lyfts and Ubers were like almost $200 at that time. It was nuts trying to get home, let me tell you.
Right. Yeah, and so I was thinking, specific bus for, like conventions or something like that. But you're right, for some big events at American Airlines Center, you'll see, Stars games and things like that. You'll see sometimes Trinity Railway Express will have service later into the evening. I don't know if that is purchased by the Stars or the Mavericks to have that later service, or if that's a combined effort between the two transit agencies that run Trinity Railway Express to provide that service later on. That's something that we can find that answer out and get back to you guys so you can share it with your membership.
Yeah, that would be good because if there's some type of exception or how they're able to do that, because I was at a Maverick game and the Maverick game went a little longer, and I, from what I understand, the train kind of held up while we were able to kind of run across the
Right.
parking lot and hop on the train and get back and forth. Sorry, Denise, they didn't do that for you guys.
And Daryl and Denise, typically when I served on, typically that's what they try to do is coordinate to do that. So that's something they try to do in events here at Dickies and those type of things. But we need to do a better job to make sure there's dependability.
Yeah, we ended up just taking the train from downtown Dallas to DFW, trying to catch that one, which we missed that train, and just Uber from the DFW, from the airport back to downtown. It was a whole debacle that night.
Done better by renting a car.
Well,
anyway,
like there's some spirits involved too.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, look, this has been a spirited webinar. We have a lot of people that are online watching, so that's great because it shows the interest of people in mobility in the African American community. So I want to thank our guest today, Mr. Andre McEwen, who is the chairman of Trinity Transit Alliance, and Rachel Albright, she's the president of Trinity Transit Alliance, and Chad Edwards, I give him a hard time everywhere we go because he's out in the community.
That's
but
right.
he
I
it pretty
appreciate
well.
it.
He's the Regional Mobility and Innovation Office.
Hey, Daryl, let me put in a plug and a selfish plug, Daryl, for transit includes biking, and I'm a biker, and I've got an Emmett Smith Grand Fondue hat, but let me encourage our bikers. Transit is about bikers, those that ride. And so we just want to make sure that TTA is here to embrace all types of transit, multimodal. So just want to encourage, you may not be here every day, ride on the bus, but by supporting all modes, we can support funding for all. So this isn't just, well, I don't use the bus, that it doesn't matter to me, but this is about all funding, all modes. And so just want to make that plug that we need all hands on deck, all minds and all inputs as we go through these funding asks. And the budget's up $10 million. We'll be asking to have this council to place the $10 million for transit in their budget. So we encourage letters, and we'll have some letter templates available to sign, maybe some petitions, but we encourage all those viewing to support us in that effort and getting the $10 million included in the budget for transit.
And I'm going to steal it one more time, Daryl, I'm sorry. Just to say that Trinity Metro really is doing an incredible job with the funding that our community has been giving it. You know, it shows the service that we have now can be vastly improved if we are able to continue to fund services that benefit the entire community. It benefits your business, and it benefits your neighbors and your parents and your kids and really everybody, because we all get around. We all need to get from point A to point B. And so I will re-emphasize, please contact City Council. Please let them know that public transportation is important to you.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys coming on, and the presentation was very informative. And all our friends who are paying attention, all you people who live in Arlington, y'all the people did not put no money in. Y'all not part of this. Y'all turned it down 2 or 3 times. So next time y'all have a vote, y'all vote for mass transit so that we can all be connected.
Just if you haven't voted already, Daryl, just go in and do a write-in right now today before 7 o'clock. Say you want some money in transit.
All right. With that, I'm gonna hand it back off to Denise. Denise.
All right. Thank you, Daryl. Thanks everybody for joining us today. It's been very informative. It's something that's very important to our community to get connected. Just a recap that we are having our women's book discussion this Saturday. If you haven't signed up for that already, make sure to head over to our Facebook and register. Other than that, make sure to go vote today before 7 o'clock. Your voices matter. Make sure you tell at least one person to go vote. Until next time, every week, Tuesdays at 3 o'clock, we'll be right here. Thank you.